Welcome to the session, Global Open Innovation Destination Yokohama. In this session, we will invite representatives from foreign embassies in Japan, as well as from Yokohama's sister city of Odessa, Ukraine, to describe some significant open innovation initiatives on the national and local levels and hear how Yokohama is ideally suited as a hub for global business operations. Let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ryo Tokunaga, who is the Managing Director for Trade and Investment at the Tokyo office of the Government of British Columbia in Canada. Mr. Tokunaga, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Ryo Tokunaga. I'm the representative of the British Columbia, province of British Columbia in Canada. First of all, the reason why one of the Canadian provinces is making a presentation today is that Vancouver, the capital of British Columbia, is a sister city and sister port relationship with Yokohama, and we are advocating to expand this relationship to the field of innovation cooperation. So first, a brief introduction of British Columbia. The population is around 5 million, and the population has been increasing more than 7% in the last 5 years. So in a sense, it's really rare in the G7 countries that Canada is quite growing in number. The number of short-term visitors from Japan is around 120 to 150,000 people, and I believe which is quite an overwhelming number of visitors is what makes British Columbia quite unique from Japan's perspective. I'm sorry, this is quality of image is somewhat poor, but this shows Japan's energy resource import route. So Canada's strength lies in its short shipping routes and low geopolitical and logistical risks. In addition, the decarbonization of the trade value chain between BC and Japan will be a major focus in the future. So as I mentioned, our relationship with Japan is quite dominated by resource exports. As you see in the slide, sorry, this is quite in Japanese. That is true as a whole as well. If you look at the graph on the right-hand side, you can see that the yellow part is all resources, and this is the kind of BC's economy looking at from an export perspective. So you can see that the forestry sector, mining, energy, and agriculture is quite prominent there. But that being said, the province has long promoted environmentally friendly policies, and 90% of the electricity generated in the province is generated by hydroelectric power. And the province was one of the first in the world to introduce carbon tax in 2008, directing tax revenues towards the development of clean technology. So it is reflected in the Global Cleantech 100, which is a list of world's top 100 cleantech companies, which includes 6 to 7 BC companies each year. So these are the kind of the company profiles you see. Other unique feature of BC economy includes the presence of companies that develop quite moonshot technologies on the left-hand side, and the presence of many apparel brands that help people enjoy nature. So Arc'teryx is one of the brands that is making leeways in Japan right now, and they're really bullish on their business in Japan. Lululemon, obviously, I think you know the yoga wear company is quite big in Japan as well. And these are BC brands. Japan, sorry. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. In addition, Japan has quite a strength in gaming and film and VFX type of digital technologies, and these are the companies that have gotten billion-dollar evaluations between 2021 and 2022, so-called unicorns, but obviously, during COVID days, there was a lot of funds that goes into the startup space. But now it's a little bit of a crunch time, so you can kind of please take that into the consideration when you look at these companies. But you can see that there's a lot of range of companies that are developed in BC. As for Japanese companies, more than 200 companies have set up operations in BC, employing over 9,900 people, generating $1.1 billion in the province. So you can see kind of like the extent of investment in BC. So, this is, BC is quite well known globally in terms of hydrogen fuel cell technologies. And for example, Cellcentric, if you see a little bit on the left-hand side, it's a joint venture between Daimler and Volvo of Germany. They recently built a large battery stack manufacturing in the plants. And although BC is not really known for large-scale manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries, there's a lot of companies that does research and development in this space as well. So, and we've been communicating with several Japanese companies in this space, looking at North America, and we're having really good traction for them to set up an operation in BC. And now we are discussing with Yokohama City what kind of collaborative relationship we can build with in the future. If you look at the first, it says Foresight Canada. So Foresight Canada is an accelerator that specializes in a wide range of clean tech fields. And if there are Japanese companies that are looking at North America as a destination for like clean tech companies trying to collaborate there, but doesn't have a lot of information, Foresight Canada is quite a good organization that we connect a lot of Japanese companies to. And I think there's a good working relationship could be built between Yokohama and us using this vehicle. Secondly, there is an organization called Innovate BC, which has a framework for funding projects that open up airports and seaports as test beds. And while BC companies need to be involved, there is also a possibility of introducing successful examples from Japanese ports and airports to be implemented in British Columbia and vice versa. So, for example, there is a company called Moment Energy that converts used EV batteries from Nissan's EVs in North America into energy storage system, and they are working with a Vancouver airport right now to on a development of a project development. So. There's a possibility, for example, to do the same in the Yokohama while sharing the knowledge, know-how, and data that we extracted from the example in British Columbia. I would like to also introduce a BC company called Chop Value, which is also exhibiting at the booth today. Chop Value is a company that collects disposable chopsticks and upscales them into, for example, like desks like this that you see on the screen. They've already upcycled 100 million chopsticks already, and they are looking at, for example, their desk is installed in McDonald's in Vancouver. So they're currently pursuing a possibility in Japan and other Asian countries as well. So if you're interested, please contact us. That would be great. Last but not least, I would like to introduce our government-to-government dialogue. May of this year, the Premier of BC visited Japan and met with the METI minister focused on energy as well as R&D. So there's a lot of R&D collaboration conversation happening between BC and Japan. So I think there's good potential for us to work together between City of Yokohama and BC. So yeah, thank you very much. It was great to have this opportunity, and we look forward to working with Yokohama companies and industries in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tokunaga. And next, we will hear from Dr. Stephen Baker on behalf of Scottish Development International. Dr. Baker, please go ahead.
Thanks very much for the kind introduction. I'd like to talk a little bit about, the relationship between Scotland and Yokohama, but when we both have ports, and there's a critical role of our port that our ports need to play as we look to move towards net zero. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about opportunities in the energy transition. First of all, just who we are. Scottish Development International is the specialist trade, capital investment and inward investment arm of Scotland's national economic development agencies. So we're the single point of contact for all international business development needs. There's a strong relationship between the UK and Japan, Yokohama, and Scotland has a strong historical relationship. Scotsmen were very prominent in the industrialization of Japan in the Meiji era. Richard Henry Brunton was one such Scotsman who was based in Yokohama. He earned the title as Father of the Japanese Lighthouses and also Father of Yokohama Urban Planning. Yamashita Park, after the large earthquake, was actually reformed from the rubble from the Kannai commercial district, and it was a Scotsman, Marshall Martin, who persuaded the city government to do that. We've had in recent times, the Scottish Government and the City of Yokohama signed a joint declaration of collaboration, areas of culture, tourism, marine and subsea industries. And of course, we had the rugby here in Rugby World Cup in 2019. We had our Scotland Rugby House in Yokohama where we shared many collaborative events. But the key thing I want to talk about is we're all facing and understand the need to tackle the climate emergency. And this is very prominent overall in the UK's agenda, and Scotland within the UK is playing a very strong role. Already 100% of Scotland's domestic electricity needs are met by renewable energy. We have some very strong goals of 75% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from the 1990 levels by 2030. Overall, we're looking to become a net zero emissions economy by 2045. I'm going to be showing quite a few slides here, but they will be available, so I won't go into a lot of the detail that's on there. The most transformative activity within Scotland at the moment is around renewable, net zero, especially offshore wind. Already, Scotland has many offshore wind projects. We've got some 10 gigawatts of projects which are operational, under construction, or consented. And you can see those on the slide there. But more recently, and it was 10 years in the planning, we've held another round. And this round we call the ScotWind round. And it's produced just on 28 gigawatts of power was assigned to the seabed leases. Again, you can see the companies involved on the left-hand side. Now, one of the key things of that is 18 gigawatts of that is floating offshore wind. And this leads us into a completely new era as we look at offshore wind. Just to sort of mention, when we look on the scale, this map shows in the yellow Scotland's exclusive economic zone. So when we look at those 20 projects that were assigned, it's about 10% equivalent of Scotland's total landmass, but it's only 1.6% of Scotland's exclusive economic zone. So to date, when we look at what this means, we're looking at those floating offshore winds projects. If they're built in full, that will require about 830 floating offshore wind turbines. And to date, the world has deployed only 26 floating offshore wind turbines and 193 megawatts of floating offshore wind. So that's a tremendous scale up that we need to look at. This is part of the Scottish Government's strategy, of course, the draft energy strategy. So the elements listed here collectively aim to meet Scotland's climate targets. One of the things that's really built into this is the principles of a just transition. And that means ensuring that the transition to a low carbon economy is fair, equitable, supporting workers and communities affected by the move away from fossil fuels. One of the ways that we've been looking to do fairness is the UK government introduced a concept called free ports. And free ports targeted areas which may have become deprived as they were deindustrialized. And this is to re-energize those areas. In Scotland, we call them green free ports. And that's because those ports have a particular emphasis on renewable energy. And you can see two in Inverness and the Forth. This gives some of the ports, and I wanted to mention these because what we're sort of seeing is ports going beyond sort of traditional roles of trade, going over the quayside, but having sort of specific characteristics. Nig, for example, in the north is positioned itself as an energy park and looking to, have a focus on offshore wind manufacturing. Similarly, when we look at the ones in the Forth, then, focus on, for instance, Leith with the offshore renewable energy hub, so it's manufacturing facilities. Grangemouth is very much around the chemical industry, sustainable aviation fuel. In Rothscythe, it's large-scale digitally enabled marine engineering. So each one having a certain characteristic. The pipeline is aggressive. You can see those yellow dots with names removed of when we expect certain of those projects to be executed on. One of the key things that this means when we look at it, when we look to what was actually built over the last 15 years, it's about 2 gigawatts. And now over the next 15 years, we've got to build out 20 gigawatts. That's a massive change. It's not scale up. It's a quantum leap into another sort of dimension. So this is where I think we'll see things that are needed, and we can collaborate between Yokohama and Scotland around port infrastructure investment. We've got mechanisms to sort of drive that. The Scottish Offshore Wind Energy Council was one that's set up. It's built up of a framework, a collaborative framework of the large developers who are looking to ensure that investments that are made really drive the right sort of synergies in the execution. So some of the key areas, the approach that we did was very much based on identifying the gaps in either technology, supply chain gaps, capacity gaps, capability gaps. And you can see some of the areas where it's towers, cables, or anchoring chains. These all need to be done. And it really relies on, digitalization of the processes. It also relies on high level of automation. Just let me finish by mentioning that a lot of green energy being produced means we can now look at other green vectors. Green hydrogen is really key, and certainly Scotland looks to really develop its overall policy direction towards mapping and both for domestic hydrogen and also into the transporting internationally. Already we see a number of Japanese companies partnering with Scotland. You can see Sumitomo for cables, Marubeni for fabrication and hydrogen, Toyota for the transportation of hydrogen. We've got a lot of Scottish companies that have been coming to Japan to look how to partner with companies here. And, we've got historical collaboration of scale. And this is time to take the opportunity to do something together today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Baker. And we now welcome Mr. Fabian Tan, Counselor of the Commercial Section of the Embassy of the Republic of Singapore. Mr. Tan, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Enterprise Singapore as well as the Singapore Embassy in Japan. 皆さん、こんにちは。はじめまして。よろしくお願いします。 Okay, so I just wanted to start off with this picture about Singapore, and as I came a bit earlier this afternoon to Yokohama, and I was walking along like the seafront and kind of like walking around Minato Mirai, and I realized that actually there's a lot of similarities between Yokohama and Singapore. Well, we have the Ferris wheel that you can see, and then City in the Garden. I was just informed that Yokohama will be hosting also Expo 2027 for the horticultural summit, and I thought there are a lot of similarities between Yokohama and Singapore. In terms of our population, we are also quite similar. Diversity as well. We are a port city, so we're an immigrant society. We have Chinese people, Malay, Indians, Eurasians that make up our population in Singapore. And in fact, about close to 1/3 of our population is actually foreigners, and of which Japanese people is about 40,000 people in our community. I mean, there are certain parts of Singapore where you have like many Japanese restaurants clustered together as well. Our GDP right now, if you were to look at the split, it's about 20% is in the area of manufacturing, 80% in other areas, services, logistics, and we have also a very strong focus on digital tech sector, which I'll share a little bit more as I talk about the startup ecosystem. Yeah, so this is just a quick snapshot of how Singapore has evolved. A little bit looking back at like our transformation process. In the early years, when we just got independence from UK, we were focused largely on labor and skills centric activities. And at that time, actually, Japanese investors contributed a large part to Singapore's economic growth. And I would call that Singapore Japan 1.0. And as it kind of evolved into the 90s and 2000s, Singapore Japan 2.0, there was a strong focus on regional headquarters, R&D in Singapore, and many Japanese companies use Singapore as a regional hub to a control tower to take care of their operations in ASEAN and also beyond. But increasingly, in this post-COVID environment, we see the trend of Japanese companies getting more and more interested in Singapore's innovation landscape. And I wanted to devote the rest of my sharing on Singapore's startup ecosystem, given that today's theme really on the whole idea of open innovation and what Singapore and Yokohama can do together. And before that, I also want to introduce the organization that I come from, which is Enterprise Singapore. So we have 4 key roles in Singapore, of which one of the key role is really promoting Singapore as a trading hub and also a startup hub. And we do this through the Startup SG banner. A quick overview of our Singapore startup ecosystem. We have currently about 4,000 technology startups. And in the past year, 2022, about $11 billion in funding. And actually, some of the deals were even done through Zoom, where some of the VCs were able to interact with the startups in Singapore through online, and then subsequently made their decision to invest. And in terms of the unicorn pipeline, we're seeing an increasing number as well. A lot of them are in Gen Tech, the likes of Grab, which is in mobility and trying to go into fintech as well, building up the whole ecosystem there. And then we have Caro, for example, which is working with Mitsubishi, and in terms of providing a platform for used car trade. But increasingly, we are also seeing companies that are going into the deep tech space in biomedical sciences, clean tech, as well as in AI. And supporting this whole ecosystem, we do have various stakeholders. We have the VC firms, venture capital firms, and increasingly we're also seeing quite a few venture capital firms with strong LP presence from Japan. So for example, Vertex Ventures, they have quite a few Japanese partners who have brought in funds to also look at investments in their portfolio companies. And beyond the venture capital firms, we also have startup communities. We call it ACE, the Action Community for Entrepreneurship. And that's kind of like a trade association for our startups. And they do a lot of community events. We have this space called Block 71, where a lot of our startups are congregated, and they have weekly events, pitching events as well. On the other hand, we also have a good mix of accelerators as well as incubators, and increasingly, many of the accelerators and incubators are focused on specific domains, the likes of agri-tech, where Singapore is trying to also grow our companies in seed technology as well as plant factory technology and alternative proteins. On the other hand, we also have the universities, which are a very important part of the startup ecosystem. Both our top universities, National University of Singapore, NUS, as well as Nanyang Technological University, NTU, they do have quite a few deep tech spin-offs, and they are also working with Japanese partners right now. Some are working with Japanese corporates, as well as with some of the Japanese accelerators. And in terms of the role of Enterprise Singapore, what do we do with startups when they enter Singapore? We typically work with them on their growth journey from early stage all the way till they grow Series B, C, and D. We play a few key roles in the ecosystem, including providing smart money and growth capital. And also, we provide opportunities to link up mentors with founders, and also work on opportunities for test bedding as well. One of the other key roles that we do is in terms of facilitating global connections and helping the startups expand overseas. And in that respect, we think it's very important to have this bridge between Singapore and Japan, and also Yokohama. Over the past year, our Prime Minister has met Prime Minister Kishida 5 times. Yeah, and 4 times last year and 1 time earlier this year. And they'll be scheduled to meet again later in December. And every time they meet, there's always this topic about how do we build more co-innovation bridges between Singapore and Japan, especially in terms of the deep tech startups from Japan going into Singapore, and also some of our startups coming from Singapore into Japan to work on some of the pressing social issues like regional revitalization. Yeah. With that, I would just like to end off with this slide to welcome our friends from Yokohama and also around the world to visit Singapore, especially during our startup and innovation events. In fact, as I'm speaking now, we have the Singapore FinTech Festival, and last I heard, we have a contingent of Japanese startups at the Japan Pavilion right now at Singapore Expo. And in fact, Slingshot, which is our largest startup competition every year, this year, the winner is a Japanese startup called Thermalytica, which specializes in thermal insulation materials. With that, I'd like to end my presentation and look forward to more collaborations between Singapore and Japan, especially in the innovation space. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tam, thank you very much for your presentation. And next, we will invite 2 guests. Councillor Richard Koizumi, who is head of Welsh Government Affairs at the British Embassy in Japan, as well as Professor Dave Wosley from Swansea University's Faculty of Science and Engineering and head of Specific and Innovation and Knowledge Center. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. We have a bit of a double act for you this afternoon. I'm going to start off with a very quick introduction about Wales before I pass on to Professor Wolseley. I imagine many of you already know of Wales because of its strong association with rugby and its very the big splash it made during the Rugby World Cup in 2019. It's part of Great Britain, lying to the west of England, with a population of about 3.1 million. And to give you a sense of comparison, it's about the same size as Shikoku. As you'd expect, Wales has its own culture and unique identity, its own language and its own parliament, where government can make laws in areas of devolved responsibility and set taxes. And in terms of the economy, it's seen rapid change over the years, moving from an economy based on coal and heavy industry to a diverse, high-tech, modern economy with particular strengths in green energy, advanced manufacturing, compound semiconductors, cybersecurity, and world-class research and development. And this goes a long way to explaining why more than 55 Japanese companies choose Wales as its base in the United Kingdom. You'll often hear Welsh government ministers talking about Wales being a small country, but with big ambitions. And nowhere is this more true than internationally, where Wales has a proud history of acting responsibly. As a nation, Wales recognises that in an interconnected world, what we do in Wales as a sustainable nation can have a positive and negative impact outside of Wales. And this is why Wales has translated the UN Sustainability Goals into law for our groundbreaking Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. And this, Wales is the only country in the world, or only nation in the world, to have done so. And this act requires Welsh public bodies to think about the long-term impact of their decisions on the economic, social, environmental and cultural well-being of Wales. So when in 2015, the Paris Agreement saw 195 countries agree to limit global average temperature rises, the Welsh Government introduced legislation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and set a legally binding target of net zero by 2050. And our approach to net zero is based on a system of 5-yearly carbon budgets, which set targets that serve as stepping stones towards the net zero target in 2050. And the idea behind the carbon budgets is to provide long-term economic predictability to encourage investment, act as a stimulus for green growth, and provide incentives to companies to take those long-term investment decisions. We're currently on the second carbon budget, and our latest modelling shows that we're on track to achieve a 44% reduction against the baseline by 2025, which is greater than the 37% target of the budget. However, legal frameworks only go so far into moving a society towards net zero, and we realise all sectors have a role to play in delivering this ambition, which is why I'm delighted to pass to my colleague, Professor Worsley, from the university in Swansea, who will give a quick overview of what we're doing in the housing sector to reach that target. Thank you.
Hi all. Konnichiwa. Right, so we're going to talk specifically about a project called Specific. And that's something which we've been working on as a national innovation centre in the UK, focused in Wales on how we make buildings that generate, store and release their own energy. In particular to harness the power of the sun, because every day more energy falls on our planet's surface from the sun than we'll use in 27 years. So we don't have to be that clever to actually get most of our energy from the sun. But also we're looking at storage solutions for hydrogen, we're looking at electrical storage, we're looking at large-scale energy projects to store heat. And what I thought I'd show first, although looking at the clock we're going to have to watch out, is a small video. This has some music, so you can all dance if you're feeling a little sad. I might do a voiceover as well, if that works as well. So we've basically looked at activating buildings so that buildings become power stations. And these are in a range of projects across the world, including India. And we work all the way from individual solar cells through to sort of module scale stuff. And we concentrate on manufacturing. And that's very important to us because then we can recover things like waste heat, and that's a material to do that. And that there is a heat store. And we're working with our friends from the steel industry to make new forms of energy trapping solution, new technologies. That one there from Imperial College is very interesting. And looking at how buildings can power themselves. Spin-outs are important, as are our international activities. And this picture is of the world's largest flexible solar cell. India is a key focus for us, working with Tata Steel. I'm on my orange light now, so sooner or later we'll get to the other points. We've won all sorts of awards, which is great, but we're also supported by major industries and UK government sources. And we're very much looking forward to creating links in Japan. Our current link is with Nippon Sheet Glass, but we're very much looking forward then to working in other areas with other Japanese construction firms. So on our Bay campus, there's a semiconductor institute, and we're looking to convert this campus to be net zero by 2027. So we haven't got long to do that. We're one of the first UK campuses to be net zero. We're also working with the steel industry to create an innovation centre, which is ironically also called Switch. Who knew? To help transition the steel industry to be a net zero industry in Wales. And we're looking at, with other colleagues locally, Amazon have this enormous warehouse, and that is a potentially huge solar cell as far as we're concerned, that we can use to power the area around our community. We're also working with a number of colleagues, including Marubeni, to produce a European first transport hub, which has both electric car charging and hydrogen vehicle charging. And that's really important so that we can trial the different types of vehicle that we'll drive in the future. Working with a number of colleagues from around the world, we're looking at housing. Housing's really important for us because so many of our people in Wales actually can't afford heating, even now. And we're now looking at how we can manufacture housing, particularly using steel, to address that housing shortage. And that's one of the reasons we're in Japan this week meeting colleagues. And that can impact all over the world. And this is an active classroom that we built in India just last year, which was designed during the pandemic. Our funders, lots of funders, which we thank, Tata Steel, Japanese, Nippon Sheet Glass, in the UK it's Pilkington's Glass, AXA Nobel and others. And then finally, thanks to our colleagues in Welsh Government, because this is a national plan, and I think by working with Japanese colleagues, we can get to net zero even faster. And I apologise for running over. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both Councillor Koizumi and Professor Bosley for their presentation. And next, we have received a message from Mr. Gennady Turhanov, Mayor of Yokohama's sister city of Odessa, Ukraine, in the form of a short video. Mayor Turhanov himself visited our city last March and spoke to the Yokohama City Council to express his appreciation for Yokohama's assistance and his hopes for restoring Odessa once the war is over. But before we see the video, now we would like to ask Oksana Chalnova, Odessa City Council, to give a message.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the city of Odessa, Ukraine, and its residents, I greet all participants of the Wise Ship Convention, the hospitable city of Yokohama, its residents and guests. We are very grateful to all for the help, as well as for the solidarity with the people of Ukraine. Please accept my sincere gratitude for the warm welcome in the city of Yokohama. It is a great honor for me to be present here today. On occasion of this important event, please let me demonstrate to you the video greeting by the mayor of the city of Odessa, Mr. Gennady Turhanov. This video.
Вітаю всіх учасників конференції.
Greetings to all the participants of the Y-Shape 2023 conference. Greetings to the city of Yokohama and all its residents. We are honored to be presented at this event. After all, Odessa is one of the largest seaports in the region and an important transport hub. It is a multinational and multicultural city where extremely hardworking people live. Today, all the efforts of Odessans are aimed at fighting the enemy. Your sincere and open city demonstrated its solidarity with Odessa, not with words, but with deeds. You were one of the first to help Odessans in the most difficult days for us of the full-scale invasion for us. We feel your friendly shoulder for more than 600 days of war. Water purification equipment, warm clothes, financial support. This is the powerful help provided by your city. A special thank for accepting groups of youth from Odessa for temporary protection. Last year, a group of young judokas visited your city, and this year it is a group of talented children who are fond of visual arts. I especially want to thank you for the solidarity you have shown in the matter of inscription of Odessa Historical Center on the World Heritage List. This historic event was made possible thanks to the super powerful international support of the Friends of Odessa, and Yokohama occupies a special place there. Being an important regional hub of humanitarian aid, Odessa plays a key role in the south of Ukraine in receiving and redistributing aid, including foreign one. We also constantly provide comprehensive assistance to the neighboring regions. Despite the difficulties of the war, Odessa managed to preserve stability and the spirit of entrepreneurial initiative. We strive to cooperation with our international friends in such fields as protection and development of sustainable urban infrastructure, smart city technologies, information technologies, etc. Odessa occupies one of the leading places in Ukraine in terms of the number of qualified employed IT specialists. This industry is represented in Odessa by more than 12,000 enterprises. Important prospects for the development of our city's infrastructure are opening thanks to Yokohama, with which Memorandum of Understanding on Technical Cooperation on Sustainable Urban Development was signed this year. I'm sure that it was the unity of the entire civilized world that gave impetus to large-scale processes, and today it brings Ukraine closer to victory. We believe that the aggression will be defeated very soon, and we will be able to meet in peaceful Ukraine.
Зустрітися з вами в мирній Україні.
Thank you for your attention, and once again, thank you for your support to Ukraine. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you very much, Oksana. Thank you. And a major industry in Odessa is found in the information technology or IT sector. To give us an up-to-date perspective into IT in Odessa, 3 Ukrainians who have been displaced from their homes will now join us on stage. Ms. Anna Yatsnik, Ms. Anna Beldehold, and Ms. Kasan Sofila. We now welcome these guests to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed colleagues, thank you for inviting us to this conference. It means really a lot to us. Japan and Yokohama City has helped Ukrainian people a lot these days. So on behalf of every Ukrainian person who is now in Japan, and I want to say thank you sincerely for your help. My name is Anna. I am 20 years old student of National Polytechnic University in Ukraine and future UX UI designer. Today I will have a little speech with my dear friends and classmates, Sofia and Anna, and we would like to present you the revolutionary app that simplifies life of every Ukrainian people approximately last few years. The name of this app is Dia.
Launched in 2020, the DIA app allows Ukrainian citizens to use digital documents on their smartphones instead of physical ones for identification and sharing purposes. The DIA portal allows access to over 50 government services. Eventually, the government plans to make all kinds of state personal interactions available through DIA.
On this slide, you can see the features of the DIA app. The first is government services. Access a wide range of governmental services conveniently from your fingertips. The second is ID and digital document storage. Securely store and manage your digital ID and important documents in one place. And the third one is scan and pay. Save time with quick and easy payments by scanning QR codes in stores and online.
There is benefits of using the DIA app. Convenience, say goodbye to long quiz and paperwork, access services anytime. Time saving, streamline transactions and administrative processes, saving your precious time. Efficiency and accuracy, reduce error and improve efficiency with automated and digital processes.
So now I want to say a lot of user interface and user experience of the DIA app. At first, we have the sleek design. You can enjoy a modern and user-friendly interface that ensures a seamless experience. The second one is intuitive navigation. It's easy to navigate through the app with the clear menus and well-organized sections. And the last one is personalization. You can customize your experience with personalized settings and preferences.
4 key services are provided by the DIA app. They are e-government, mobile payments, digital ID, and interface design services.
Security and privacy measures. Data encryptions ensure the privacy and security of your personal data with advanced encryption technology. Two-factor authentication, additional layer of security with two-factor authentication for secure access to your account. Biometric authentication and enhanced security with biometric authentication options such as fingerprint or facial recognition.
Talking about user feedback and ratings, DIA app has received rave reviews with an average rating of 4.8 stars from millions of satisfied users. Users appreciate the convenience and efficiency the app brings to their daily lives. Feedback and suggestions from users are valued and used to enhance the app's features and usability.
And now I want to talk a little bit about the future developments and updates of the DIA app. For first, it's expanded services. Additional governmental services and features will be added to meet new and evolving needs of users. Secondly, is enhanced security. Continuous efforts will be made to further strengthen the app's security and privacy measures. And the last one, but not the least, optimization and used feedback. Ongoing improvements based on user feedback to deliver the best possible user experience.
To conclude, it's a more ecological and time-saving product, which not only preserves the environment, but is also convenient and easy to use, as there is no need to carry your paper documents. And also it has other functions that can be done offline. So we hope this app can be also useful for Japanese community too. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ms. Yatsnik, Ms. Beldhold, and Ms. Katsan. And next, we will hear from Ms. Lilia and Ms. Catalina. It has been 1 year since they were displaced from their home and came to Yokohama, and they are here to share an overview on the current state of their project as well as their personal thoughts on behalf of their fellow displaced Ukrainians working with local students and youth. Lilia, Catalina, we welcome you. Go ahead.
So, we want to talk about Ukrainians event. We love Yokohama as well as my hometown. and collaborative project between Yokohama City International Bureau, Yokohama International Exchange Association, Yokohama City University, and Yokohama UMCA, and also youth who come to Yokohama from Ukraine, and the youth of Yokohama communicate with each other to reach the younger generation. Event We Love Yokohama as well as my hometown was started in November 11th this year. At first, we have photo exhibition and Ukrainian talk session and also youth exchange meeting. Preparation of this event started on September this year. And photo session was started in October 8th when youth Ukrainian people and Japanese have some small groups and walked in the Yokohama and made some photo. And also we have guest speaker session as for learning. And also in October 21, we have some online meeting when each member of the management team will introduce the theme of this event, My Hometown.
Hello, everyone. During the event itself on November 11th, so we had panels, banners with the descriptions of our cities and Ukrainian youth, our participants and Japanese youth. We were staying next to those panels and we were describing our cities, our hometowns. Our guests, they were coming to us and they were asking questions about our cities, hometowns, about our impressions of our cities. Then we had a photo exhibition. We were divided by groups when we were going to the photo session. So then we selected 12 photos, each of our groups. There were 3 groups. Then we printed the photos and we showed them on the panels too. During the talk session, we were talking about our experience in Yokohama, our plans for the future. There were 2 speakers, me and Katerina, and we were talking about our life in Yokohama and so on. Then we showed the video of 7 Ukrainian youth interviewed before the event, and we made a video about their experiences. So then we edited and showed it to the audience too. At the end, we had an exchange between all of us. Then we were eating the Ukrainian pyrishki made by Natalia, who also is evacuated from the Ukraine. And then we had a photo of all of us. So I want to say that this event actually was so useful for us to integrate ourselves to the Japanese community and to get know each other better with Japanese youth, with the Japanese students. So we hope that we would be able to have more such an events to create something together probably and to to start a new era of our collaboration in the future. I really loved to spend time with all of those young people and I can say that I found a couple of friends there, so I was happy to participate in this event.
And I really think that this event was a really good opportunity for Ukrainians and Japanese youth who get to know each other, learn about those cultures, languages, and I feel that this openness of youth people to other culture, languages, it's really good step for minding the successful world. And I also want to say that I'm glad that it's possible to hold this event in Yokohama. Thank you for attention.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lilia and Ms. Catalina. Thank you so much. And again, many thanks once again to our guests from Odessa and Ukraine. Please give a round of applause to all of our speakers and guests. Thank you so much.